Hello and welcome to Bread and Thread, a podcast about food and domestic history. I'm Liz.
And I'm Hazel. We are two friends who studied archaeology together and love history, domestic history, and making things, and also foods. So we normally like to talk a little bit about that before we get onto our main topic for the podcast. So what have you been up to recently?
I've been getting very into crocheting ear flap hats.
Okay, I've seen one of these, but you've done another one, right?
Yeah, so I made one for me that looks like an owl because owls are amazing and I love them.
Wow.
And then I made one for Pencil of the Probably Bad podcast that looks like a cat.
Oh,
And I'm making a lizard one for Nick and a generally brightly coloured one for my sister, who is also one of our patrons. So, hi, Emma.
it's fantastic. Hats for all, and all for hats.
Yeah.
How long do they take you? Because you seem to whip them up quite quickly.
Each one takes me about a day, but I don't know in terms of actual hours
Okay.
because it's more just sort of doing it while watching and listening to things.
Mm-hmm. That is neat. I love the owl
Well,
hat.
the owl hat is the best hat I've ever owned.
So it should be.
So, what about you?
Um, I have started a quilt.
Oh,
I began the year like, okay, no new projects, get some finished. But I've been wanting to make like a really fancy patchwork quilt for a while. And so I figured now was the time. I was in town yesterday and one of the charity shops has like a big box of donated fabric scraps and like bits of old clothes and things that are like 25p each. So
mhm.
I got a whole bunch of fabric and now I am patchworking and it's a lot of fun. I'm making I'll send you a link to what it's meant to look like. I'll put this on the Twitter as well. It's like a
You
reproduction
do love
of
things on
a
Twitter.
I will. I will. I was doing so well, and then like the scheduling changed a little bit, and then I was like, oh.
That is very pretty.
Um, but yeah, it's a quote from the 1890s in America. Um, and it was probably a little bit ambitious for my first try. I saw a picture of this and then I went to find like the original quilt. And then I thought, yeah, it'll be fine. I'll just like do some maths and try and figure it out. I could have bought a pattern. There are several patterns for this, which I'll link to, but no, I had to do it the hard way and I got like the compasses out and started drawing things. And I think I figured it out. But to anyone who doesn't want to spend like 3 hours on that, I would recommend just getting the pattern. But yeah, it's been fun. I went hardcore DIY on this. Um,
Yeah. It's the little gremlin that lives in your brain and says, "You could do that."
exactly. I could, but at what cost?
Several times more than it would cost to buy the object.
Exactly. But yeah, that's really fun. It's a bit of an undertaking. There's like apparently about 300 pieces in each block. So that's
Wow.
going to be interesting, but we'll see. It'll probably be with me for a few years, so I will try and keep the Discord updated. Um, and yeah, the day of recording is 12th night, so we will be out wassailing in a little bit. Which, if you've not heard of wassailing, it is a traditional custom in Britain. I don't know about it being in other places, but it might well be. Where you go and like bless the apple trees on 12th night. I mean, the the custom that I know of is on 12th night, but I think other areas might do it at different times. I'm not sure. Like some at Christmas as well. But anyway, we do it on 12th night, and you go and like recite like a blessing for the apple trees to ensure their fruitfulness in the coming year. And some places sort of will sell their animals as well, like on farms, I think.
That sounds like
Um,
a disconcerting experience for a sheep.
yeah. So you recite a little blessing and you sing a song and you pour some cider on the tree roots and you drink some cider yourselves. Obviously, that's the whole point. I have a glass of cider right now. I thought it would be, seasonal.
For our American followers, that is hard cider, not apple juice.
Oh, yes. Yes. All cider in the UK is alcoholic and quite quite adamantly so.
That is the best description I've ever heard.
Unless you're drinking Strongbow. Anyway, yeah, that's what I'll be doing later on. What are we gonna talk about today?
I thought, I've been putting it off for a while, but Kellogg's has been in the news because of strikes and things.
It has indeed.
So I thought I would talk about Mr. Kellogg and the
Oh,
other Mr.
yes.
Kellogg because it turns out they were brothers.
I've been waiting for this for a while. I am excited to learn more about the interesting history of the Kellogg brand.
Okay, so the Kellogg brothers were two of 11 children born to Mr. and Mrs. Kellogg,
Gosh, that's
who
quite a
lived,
family.
yeah, um, in Tyrone, Michigan. They worked in their father's broom factory,
Right.
but as a part of their sort of religious ideas, they were Seventh-day Adventists.
Okay. I'm not
Um,
entirely sure what that involves.
it's a branch of Christianity,
Mhm,
unsurprisingly from just history.
mhm.
I believe in things like the imminence of the second coming is a big one.
Okay.
Um, they had an event in 1844 where they were convinced that the second coming was happening that was known as the Millerite Great Disappointment.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
That's
it
a
didn't
shame.
didn't happen.
Hmm, that's disappointing.
So John, who was the older of these two main brothers, like there were other siblings, but we're mostly just talking about John and Will,
The relevant Kellogg's.
the relevant Kellogg's. So John actually did go to medical school and became a doctor,
Okay.
and eventually took over running a health resort in Michigan known as the Western Health Reform Institute.
Okay. Very institutional sounding. Whenabouts was this, by the way?
Um, he became superintendent of it in 1876.
Right.
And Will Kellogg actually became a bookkeeper there. So health resorts were quite a big thing at this time. Like you've probably heard of people going places like Bath to take the waters.
Yeah, definitely. That's like a
Um,
central theme of every Jane Austen novel.
oh yeah. So the idea in the US was a lot more for going places for the air.
Okay.
So you'd have a lot of these places in mountains or in drier areas where you'd go and get the air for your health, and there'd be enemas were a really big thing for some reason,
Okay.
and very what would now be referred to as sort of clean diets. Lots of vegetables and nuts and little to no animal products.
Mhm.
Because there was this general idea that, which kind of comes from the older stuff of miasmas and that illnesses were to some extent caused by impurities.
Okay.
So you'd have these vegetarian diets, enemas, fresh air, um, just being in sunlight
Well, that one came back.
as a general way of sort of cleansing your body and
Mhm.
increasing your wellness, which is a word that John Kellogg actually used himself.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, wellness
I
is an old concept.
mean, I guess, like, apart from the enemas, all those things sound relatively sensible.
Yeah. Yeah, Kellogg himself believed that a lot of disease was caused by gut bacteria,
Okay.
and that you had to balance your gut bacteria to be healthy, hence the enemas.
Okay.
But a big goal of the Seventh Day Adventists, or a big sort of mantra for them, I guess, was the reduction of self pleasure, shall we say, in order to keep the clean tag,
I see.
which was incredibly unhealthy.
Is it now?
It's bad for you and it causes all manner of maladies.
Ah, I see.
Um, so yeah, this resort, which was like he renamed Battle Creek Sanitarium to emphasize the sort of sanitary, healthy nature of it. And a big thing there, as well as all these different therapies, was the use of dietetics, or the idea that changing your diet can change your health,
Mhm.
which is where it becomes relevant to our area. Because one of the things that he actually created was granola.
Oh, like the concept of granola.
The concept of granola.
Okay.
So in the late 1870s, basically, if you were rich, you'd probably have egg, bacon, that sort of stuff for breakfast. And if you were poor, you'd have basically gruel, like a thin porridge.
Mhm.
And he basically looked at that and went, "You know what's great about these breakfasts? Is the one that tastes like nothing. It's got to be super good for you
Oh,
because bland food stops you getting so overexcited and doing things you shouldn't be doing."
right. Just gonna say, that's never stopped me.
I feel the need to point out at this point that one of the big names in creating this concept of a connection between bland foods and health was Ellen G. White,
That name
who
doesn't ring a bell for me.
she was a Seventh day Adventist
Okay.
known for her religious visions. So clearly a big believer in the scientific method there.
Mhm.
Like she was her ideas were very much divinely inspired rather than based on science.
Uh-huh.
But she did have some good ideas, like smoking is bad, eating a balanced diet is good, even if her idea of a balanced diet wasn't necessarily what we would call a balanced diet. Like she wasn't entirely on the wrong track.
I mean, yeah, like, I guess none of this is, like, entirely baseless, like, diet does affect health, in certain ways.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting them not being entirely wrong.
Mhm.
But yeah, so he wanted to create kind of a soft, easy to eat, but still relatively bland breakfast food.
Okay.
Um, so he made a bread out of wheat, oats, and corn and called it granular, which was already a brand of breakfast cereal. So then in 1881, he changed the name to granola.
Right. He literally invented the word granola. Oh, that no way. I don't know where I thought the word came from, but I didn't realize it was originally a brand.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's kind of become just a generic thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, he did set up a food company to develop and market healthy food products in 1890, which Will Kellogg was involved in as well.
And were they healthy?
I mean, probably healthier than eating eggs and bacon every day.
I guess so.
Probably more nutrients than, you know, a, th- a relatively thin porridge made of just whatever grains you can get hold of that day.
Mhm.
But obviously, the most well-known product of the Kellogg's is cornflakes.
Of course.
Um, so apparently, there's kind of a debate about which Kellogg actually invented cornflakes. Whether it was John, Will, or John's wife Ella.
Okay. I was gonna say, I think Ella Kellogg is a very just orally pleasing name.
It feels good to say. Um, so yeah, there's suggestions that either Ella had the idea of rolling it out, or John was inspired in a dream to roll it out. I think I lean more towards the former.
The idea that Kellogg's that cornflakes came from a dream is I'm gonna say I think they should lead with that on their branding. Like
I mean, you might as well at this
just
point.
divinely inspired cornflakes.
Um, but yeah, so the granola dough through whoever decided to do it was rolled out and it broke into these little flakes, which were then baked.
Mhm.
And Will Kellogg apparently then figured out how to do it in a reliable way that would create, a mass producible product.
Okay.
But there is some industrial espionage.
Oh, cornflake spies.
Not
I
quite
guess they'd
cornflake
be
spice.
granola spies.
Um, so apparently anyone could visit the sanitarium and observe the process of making cornflakes,
Okay.
which seems like an oversight in terms of like IP security, but I
I
guess that
mean,
wasn't really a concept as much.
yeah.
By the fact that industrial espionage had been a thing since at least the beginning of the Industrial Revolution and probably earlier.
I mean, I'd guess as long as people were making money from having good ideas.
Yeah. But yeah, CW Post apparently stole the idea after visiting and set up what later became General Foods, which upset
Shocking.
Will Kellogg so much that he left the company.
Oh, what, left his own company?
Apparently,
He didn't do anything to the other guy, he just left his own company.
he became an Arabian horse breeder.
I was not expecting that, but good for him.
Also a philanthropist, because he'd made a lot of money by that point, but yeah, in 1825, he became an Arabian horse breeder.
I mean, yeah, I guess if you've made enough money, you can just be like, "All right, I've had enough of this. I'm gonna go buy some horses."
I mean, you might as well at that point. Um, but interestingly, also during the Great Depression, Kellogg's were very conscious of providing employment and made sure that everyone in Battle Creek who wanted a shift could get one so they could, work and feed their families.
Ooh.
Hint, hint, modern day Kellogg's.
Yeah, that was good of them, wasn't it? Almost like that's how the business should be.
Clearly, we need to bring back the Battle Creek Toasted Cornflake Company instead of Kellogg, because that's what it was called.
We need to reset Kellogg's to factory settings.
Just
Get it? Because it's a
head to
factory.
Michigan, head to
A.
Michigan, press the big red button.
The big red button that is installed in the Kellogg's factory that transports you back to 1881.
I mean, I would press it at this point. We could just try again.
That's true, I would also press it. And then we could, like, take technologies with us from modern times and become millionaires.
But yeah,
Or rich.
apparently John Kellogg also regularly corresponded with George Washington Carver about peanuts and sweet potatoes.
Okay.
We did cover George Washington Carver on an earlier episode and his peanut innovations.
Yes.
But yeah, apparently Kellogg was a big fan of nut butter. Um, and it was served in Battle Creek Sanitarium as an alternative to butter rather than as a source of protein. It was just put that on your bread instead, which I find
Right.
interesting. Because
Yeah, it's not a butter substitute.
yeah, like the name does suggest that it would be, so I guess it makes a kind of sense that at some point someone did that. But also, I think beyond you can spread it on stuff, there is nothing, but like there is no comparison between peanut butter and butter.
I think, well, does butter refer to, like, the process of turning the fats into, like, a bread? Is that what makes it a butter? Because you can get,
It,
like, body butter as well, and I don't
I'm
know.
gonna find out because I was assumed it
Yeah,
was just a comparison in texture.
I think it might be because 'cause I've made, like, fruit butters before, which is kind of similar to a curd, I think, but
Oh yeah, I've heard of apple butter.
yeah, um, so I think it might be something to do with that, but with, like, the consistency of the thing, but, like, either way, it's still not it doesn't do the same things as butter.
Yeah, it looks like butter has meant butter since at least Old English.
Okay.
So I think it is more of a textural comparison.
Mhm.
But yeah, apparently peanuts as a health food were a thing for a while. There was a product called cheese nut,
Oh, I don't like that.
which was a peanut and cheese snack. It was all like,
Ew.
oh, it's all high protein and great.
Hmm.
But yeah, Kellogg apparently did apply for two different patents relating to nut butters. Sort of the different ways of producing it. and he also introduced a substance called Nuttose, which was
Okay.
a peanut-based mutton substitute.
Um, I guess, would that count as a nut roast?
I I guess it would.
I mean, I get how that's a substitute for mutton in terms of, like, its protein, but do can you get peanuts to taste like mutton?
Apparently, there was marinating involved.
Ooh, do you like a bit of marinating?
So, yeah, you can probably tell from this he was a big fan of the idea of living healthily being a good thing for your body and also your soul because he was a very dedicated member of the Seventh-day Adventists.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and sort of his ideas about gut bacteria came from being an early advocate of germ theory, which is pretty cool.
Alright.
And he was anti-smoking and all that stuff. He was, however, because there's always a however,
Oh, no.
um, a founder of the Race Betterment Foundation.
Oh dear. I was actually just about to be like, "So, like, I guess maybe he like, overall, not so bad." And then you said that.
Yeah, no, he was also, yeah, a prominent eugenicist
Oh, no.
in the racist and ableist ways,
Oh, dear.
and helped enact laws to sterilize people who weren't deemed to be fit to breed.
Uh,
We start stuff so well, John.
uh, you could have just spent it all on horses, but no, you had to do bad.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into that because it's incredibly depressing and also, you know, we, we all know what that involves.
Mm. Okay, well, I admit there is a lot more to cornflakes than I originally thought. Like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna say
I
they're
mean,
not my favorite cereal, but I do enjoy a cornflake tart.
conflict tart.
Yeah, you know cornflake tart?
I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, we used to have it at school. It's when it's like pastry and then jam and then crushed cornflakes and on top.
That does sound nice.
It's delicious if you're 8.
I've had the thing I used to occasionally have at school with cornflakes was you know, like those little chocolate Rice Krispie cakes.
Mhm.
Used to get those, but with cornflakes. And
Ah.
you'd go to, like, Greggs and places like that near Easter, and they'd have them to look like little nests with mini eggs in.
Oh, that's cute.
I'm sure the Kellogg's would have heartily disapproved.
Oh, yeah, I do find it quite ironic that it was originally created as this super health food, and now you can get, like, sugar frosted cornflakes and chocolate ones.
But you know what? Based on what other beliefs he had, I'm glad that it goes against everything he believed in.
If you wanna stick it to Mr. Kellogg, eat those sugary cornflakes, preferably the knockoff ones.
Oh, yeah. He didn't have any kids of his own, but did foster many, many children and adopted 8 of those. He and his wife were foster parents to 42 children.
Wow,
Interestingly, considering his views, including some black children.
okay.
And yeah, they adopted 8 of the children that they fostered.
This has been a very mixed bag.
Yeah, he's an interesting man. And
So,
yeah, he died in Battle Creek in 1943.
okay.
So this was a bit of a short episode, but it's one that I've been kind of waiting for the right time to do for a while, and I feel like laughing at the cornflakes man is a good antidote to the last episode.
Yes. I think so. Yeah, definitely a lot more to that than I first thought. Like, who did the Kellogg empire get passed on to? Did it stay in the family or like I assume it's now just a free market company, but
So yeah, it seems like it went to Will Kellogg, and actually the one that was responsible for making sure people got shifts during the Great Depression.
yeah, okay.
And then yeah, I mean it is still Kellogg's. It was not acquired.
Oh, right.
They bought other companies, but yeah, they are still based in Battle Creek, Michigan.
Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it for some reason I thought it was like a big well, it is a big, you know, large
It is
corporation, but
arguably the biggest cereal company, certainly one of the biggest food companies.
yeah, I was quite surprised by when I was reading about all the strikes and stuff, it was listing some of the other brands they owned, and it's a lot.
But I think the thing is, most of the brands aren't ones that we in the UK come across.
Mhm. Yeah, I didn't recognize most of them.
Like the main ones that I've heard of are ones that have just like popped up on American shows I've watched rather than ones I've actually eaten.
But, you know, millennials are killing cereal, so who knows how long it'll last.
I have heard this.
I have to say, like, I've never really it's not that I don't like cereal, it's just that most of the times like, I don't drive, so I'd never want to carry a box of cereal home.
I guess the thing is, it's like these days it's just kind of the default breakfast.
Yeah.
Like honestly, in kind of a reversal, I kind of see porridge as kind of the a little bit of a treat because it takes more effort. Like I'll do something like, stand at the stove and stir my witch's brew of oats and milk.
I guess, yeah, it does feel very wholesome on winter mornings as well.
Mm,
And porridge can be as gourmet as you make it, so
exactly.
yeah.
That and like the overnight oats trend,
Oh,
which
yeah.
I jumped wholeheartedly into. I love an oat.
I I tried that and I just I can't yeah, I can't get in favor of cold oats.
That is fair.
It's
Like
just not my thing.
I have had some success microwaving it the next day, so it just ends up being like a lower effort porridge.
Mhm.
But
I
microwaving to make porridge itself is a risk because of microwaving milk.
Oh, I usually do microwave porridge like a maniac.
You're braver than I am.
But
Like,
I
I
do
tried
fully
it once
see
and the milk did the thing that milk does when you get it too hot, and I haven't tried again.
I normally, like, have to put it on for a little bit and then stir it and put it on again, but I fully see the benefits, like the convenience benefits of doing overnight oats.
So yeah, that is John Harvey Kellogg, to a lesser extent William Keith Kellogg. and cornflakes.
That was a wild ride.
I I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have a comment, you want to, you know, just just say hi.
If you wanna yell
Um,
at Kellogg's on Twitter.
yes, tweet us your favorite non-Kellogg's breakfast cereal at Bread and Thread on Twitter, or
And we will
message it to us on Tumblr at Bread and Thread.
we will broadcast it to our many followers.
You can also email breadandthreadpodcast@gmail.com if you want to secretly tell us your favorite cereal is actually a Kellogg's one.
We won't judge you.
We won't tell.
A little bit, anyway. You can find us on Tumblr at Bread and Thread, and also on the YouTubes, the same name, where there are audio recordings of episodes.
And there will be other video content eventually.
Mhm.
There's there's a couple of things I think. There is more to come. I'm gonna try and do more video content this year.
I think that is about it.
We also have a Patreon
Oh, yeah, we
if you
do.
want.
We do have a Patreon.
We do have a Patreon, which is Bread and Thread. If you want access to monthly recipes and a fairly active at the moment, actually, Discord server where we talk about things we've been making and baking and just generally have a natter because it's kind of turned into a little knitting circle atmosphere, which I'm very much enjoying.
Nice.
So yeah, we'll be back next time. So I normally say we'll see you next time, but you know what? We will. Also support strikes.
Yeah.